Howdy y'all, thanks for tuning in. Before we get on with the video, I would like to say if you guys could please help me reach 500 subscribers before the end of this year. That's my goal I want to reach before the year is over. So some ways you can help is by sharing my videos and my channel to all the people you know and to all your followers. So if you guys could please do that, that would be a big help to me. And if you aren't already subscribed, please subscribe. So now that we have that out of the way, let's get on with the cancer.
What?
In the Western world, no country has more apparent racial divisions and tensions than America. The country was built on the genocide of the native population.
There was no genocide of the Native American population. That is, over 90% of the Native American population died because of unintentional spread of disease. Also, Native Americans were killing each other long before Europeans came.
And a massive industry of African slave workers.
And who sold them? Other Africans. And the descendants of both the Native Americans and of the Africans have benefited from these things. I know that's a controversial thing to say, but it's the truth. Now, what happened to their ancestors was terrible. However, we can't change that. So let's stop worrying about the past and move on.
The legacy of both these things are still apparent today, and the US has failed to reconcile its past like many other countries have.
That's bull. Americans have learned about the Trail of Tears, they have learned about slavery, they have learned about all of the awful things the US has done to both blacks and Native Americans. As for slavery, we also fought a war, and then when we had Jim Crow laws, we got rid of them in the 60s. Malevolent racism towards blacks and other minorities has gotten a whole lot better. There's very little malevolent racism towards blacks and other minorities. Most of the malevolent racism towards people of color is towards right-wing people of color. The other major amount of malevolent racism today in the United States is towards white people in general. And if you want to hear more on this topic, you can watch my video, Racism in America. I'll have the link down below.
Instead of the US profusely apologizing to the natives, their land is still being stripped away, as are their voting rights.
Their land isn't being stripped away, and their voting rights aren't either.
The presidents who enacted genocidal policies against them are still lauded by the right wing, such as Andrew Jackson.
Listen, what Andrew Jackson did was horrible. Does anyone on the right actually support what he did with the Native Americans? No. And you can't base today's standards of morality on the past.
Similarly, the US has never fully reconciled with its past treatment of Africans. Still today, black Americans are oppressed by government institutions.
Bullshit. Blacks are not discriminated in the government.
The war on drugs has primarily targeted them and Latinos.
That's because they live in areas where there's high violent crime.
Unarmed black men are regularly shot by police who then go on to face little to no consequences, with most retaining their jobs despite many of these incidents being filmed on camera.
That is half true. The part about the cops shooting pretty much only black people, that's false. The part about some cops getting away with murder, that part is true.
America's race problems stem directly from their brutal history, and because of their constant expansion on the world stage, little time has been given to introspection. Because of its power, to many Americans, what happened in their history has been worth it. Unlike countries like Germany, the US has never reconciled or attempted in a significant way to make amends for its past. Instead, the opposite is true. Confederate monuments and iconography are rife, and oil companies get government backing to depossess natives of their minuscule surviving land.
That's not their land. That was a lie. And there's nothing wrong with having Confederate statues and having the supposed Confederate flag, which isn't really the Confederate flag. There's nothing wrong with them.
So I'm sure most of you know it pretty well if you're an American, but let's just get into it and read a tiny bit of it. So, we hold these truths to be self-evident that all men are created equal, they are endowed by their creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty and the pursuit of happiness, that to secure these rights, governments are instituted among men, deriving their just powers from the consent of the governed, that whenever any form of government becomes destructive of these ends, it is the right of the people to alter or abolish it and institute a new government, laying its foundations on such principles and organising its powers in such form. So from that part I read to you about everyone's rights, the pursuit of happiness, the rights to, equality and liberty, doesn't it seem pretty ironic on, America's birthday that it's just been revealed at how badly migrants are being treated in concentration camps?
You saying that diminishes what happened to the people in the Holocaust and other mass killings. Those are not concentration camps. Those are detention camps. They committed a crime coming over the border. Whether you agree with it or not, they committed a crime. They weren't arrested because of their skin color or their nationality. They were arrested because they came over the border illegally.
I studied a lot of American history in university. I'd say I'm an expert on American politics and history.
Oh, that is hilarious. You are certainly not an expert. You are the dumbest I'm not going to even respond to the rest of this video because all you say is a bunch of bull. You are a seriously dumb And there was another video I wanted to respond to, but I don't think I'm going to respond to it. I'm just going to list the highlights from it. In this other video, he calls the Republican Party far right, and he calls the Democratic Party right wing. Both of those things are utterly false. For starters, the Republican Party is barely right wing at all. The Republican Party is mostly just a center-right party, and conservatives are at most a moderately right-wing group of people. And the supposed far-right aren't even actually right-wing. I've done a whole video on how they're mostly made up of socialists. The only true far-right group would be libertarians, anarcho-capitalists and other right-wing anarchists, and minarchists. All of these people, and groups that are similar to them, would be technically far-right. And when I mean far-right, I'm talking about economics. And as bad as the political compass is, it is moderately good on how describing certain groups. Because you got an economic right and an economic left. Authoritarianism can be held on both sides, whether it be on the left or on the right. Economics, though, cannot be held on both sides. Their economics are different. For example, communists would be on the authoritarian left, and libertarians and their ilk would be on the libertarian right. Having nationalist or conservative views do not make you right wing, because there are conservative Democrats. Not many, but there are some. Now on to the part about the Democrats being right wing. Well, that's just blatantly false. The Democrats are center left, which I don't even think that. I think they're more towards just moderate left-wing party, at least the ones in power. However, the party in general looks like it's going more and more towards the far left. Anyways, that was the gist of his other video that I would have responded to, but I don't feel like listening to him anymore because I just might become brain dead. That's it for this video. If you liked it, please give it a like, subscribe, share it, comment down below and tell me what you thought. And please help me reach my goal of 500 subscribers before the end of this year. So, do all that, and I'll see y'all later.